the schools. You know, I think we all got this email about the schools and what they're paying. We don't have anything to do with other taxing bodies with the schools, do we?
Mr. Wilson?
We have no contracts?
Yeah,
that
I haven't
approve
seen that, but yet, do we have no IGAs or anything like that with the schools for natural gas service? No.
them? Okay, I'll just pass this memo on to you so you can take a look at it and see what they're talking about. I'll leave it up here for later for you. Thank you, that's all I needed.
Okay. Alderman Eugene Wesley.
I have two questions. Insurance premiums. How can you tell me that it's going down when we just know, is that health insurance premiums?
No, that's the IRMA premiums. And two things on that. One, actually, they have been going down the last couple of years. And additionally, we have been able to get some better reporting from IRMA to know where some of the actual incidents, I guess, if you will, or some of the claims are coming from.
Okay.
And so we've been able to more appropriately allocate the expense for the IRMA premium to the funds that are incurring, that have the claims against them.
Okay.
Because before, the general fund would pay 100% of the claim, 100% of the premium, but didn't actually incur 100% of the claims. And so in an effort to be fairer to all parties involved, we've been going through and allocating that claim experience to the different funds per their reports. So that's what, they have been going down overall, but then the allocation has also helped to bring that number down a little bit too.
Okay. Man,
Go ahead.
oh, so you're going to cut me off of my good one.
No,
Tuition reimbursement.
I would never do that to you.
This one, I swear, unless I was wrong, that we sat up here last year and we choose to take this out of the budget due to the fact is that why should we be paying for someone's bachelor's degree or whatever degree they're going for? But in that discussion I had, and maybe I was wrong, that I have no problem of leaving some of that tuition in there because we have people that still need to maintain their license with the city of Wooddale. Like I know John needs to hold his wastewater license, Brad needs to hold a license, and it's part of, but, you know, there's other outfits out there that people need to hold their license, or else if we forfeit their licenses, we're going back to square one, and then we're going to have them retrain and go out and take the whole course over. So, in my statement there, I would have no problem taking it down to $4,000 if it's just used for people that have to maintain their licenses or anything else. I just cannot see us sitting here as a council member and sit here and approve a tuition reimbursement. I don't know what other town approves a tuition reimbursement other than holding licenses to let people go out and get their bachelor's degrees or associate degree or whatever they may be going for. I don't think that's right. I don't think it should be paid out of taxpayers' money. I have no problem of giving some money to maintain those licenses, but I will definitely, if we can't get down to 4,000, I won't approve this section, and if we're going to keep this here, there's no way I can sit up here and approve $10,000 for tuition reimbursement after we had this discussion last year.
Mr. Rivers, can you first explain what makes up the $10,000 line item, and then respond in any other fashion you'd like to Alderman Eugene Wesley's comments?
Sure. Like I had mentioned before, I still think there's a bit of confusion here with this line item. Tuition reimbursement is totally separate from certifications and keeping, you know, whatever requirements you have to keep the job. That's listed in each department's budget as a line item for, trainings, meeting, conferences, continuing education. That's in each department's budget. This line item, tuition reimbursement, is specifically for what you had said about, pursuing your bachelor's degree or improving yourself by pursuing your master's degree to help in whatever position you're in. Within the city's personnel manual, we have guidelines that, you have to use it, towards your job. If you're in the building department, you can't go and get a nursing degree or something like that. It has to be applicable to the job. You have to stay in the city a certain amount of time for us to cover that cost. You have to get a certain grade in that course for you to get reimbursement. Two totally separate things. So if you want to discontinue the tuition reimbursement plan, that's fine. You would just zero it out. You would need to bring it back to 4,000 because all that other money is covered elsewhere in the budget. So the question here is whether or not you want to continue with the tuition reimbursement plan. If you don't, then the account would go down to zero. If you do, then it would be at the number proposed.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Let me ask you this question. If that is the case, who gives approval of if it's worth their job to get reimbursed? How does a council, and I know it's personnel, but it's taxpayers' money, how does a council make that decision up here giving $10,000 on who makes the decision on who's eligible or not eligible?
Mr. Wilson?
I mean, last year we hear some person up here was going after a lawyer degree. Why should I pay for a lawyer degree license? How does that benefit the city? How does that benefit the city?
Okay, before you respond, Mr. Wilson, is that in fact the case that someone was pursuing an attorney's degree?
No.
Okay, there were
No.
no classes approved.
No,
Okay,
she,
good.
the
Okay.
person in
That
question
wouldn't have
was,
been good.
the person in question, no, the person in question was finishing their bachelor's degree and happened to be taking a class in business law.
Okay,
And so
Well,
that
that's
somehow morphed itself into getting a law degree. At the time, they didn't even have their bachelor's degree, so you can't get a law degree at JD unless you have a bachelor's degree. So
okay,
I know how that came about, but it was a business law course
okay.
that somehow manifested itself into the pursuit of a JD.
That wasn't the way it
Um,
came to us last year up there.
I
Okay,
understand,
but the fact still remains that she was pursuing a bachelor degree, and there are those liberal arts courses you have to take, or whatever it's classified as, so I can see how it could have been confusing, though. And then, can you continue, Mr. Wilson, on,
Sure.
yeah,
To get approved for the tuition reimbursement, the employee has to turn in the course request to their supervisor, who then approves or denies it. If they approve it, it goes to the department head, who can then approve or deny it. It then goes to the city manager, who can approve or deny it, and then it goes to HR, who can approve or deny it. So depending on where you're at in the strata, there's up to 4 different people that have to sign off on it before it gets approved and paid out, or 2. I mean, like I said, depending on where you're at within the organization.
After, recently, has anyone been denied in the past couple of years? That you can think of offhand?
To be honest with you, I mean, aside from the pay requests coming through, the only one that I explicitly see was my own, so I don't know if anyone's was denied or not.
Sure.
I wouldn't know that.
And the only reason why I'm asking is just to see, like, it's one way of seeing if it's being administered fairly. You know, if certain people are getting it and certain people aren't. Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, typically the employee is aware of the rules. They read the personnel manual and they know if it's not applicable,
Okay,
there's really no point in applying for the
sure.
reimbursement.
Okay,
I haven't seen anything that's been denied.
okay, thank you. Any other questions or, okay, Alderman Police?
Jeff, you just said a little while ago with education that once they've done the class, they have to stay with the city a couple of years. I thought last year that was said no. You said no to that.
No, I'm talking tuition reimbursement, you would have to stay with the city. Continuing ed, I don't believe there's a time
I know,
limit on that.
but I'm saying, let's say the employee finishes the class And.
What class are you talking? You
Well,
talking
whatever, any class.
certification, or are you talking
No,
tuition reimbursement?
Tuition reimbursement.
You're talking tuition reimbursement.
Tuition reimbursement.
Okay.
So they take the class, naturally, they finish whatever degree they're getting. Can they go out the very next month and take a job somewhere else because they finished this class, now they can get this job that pays a little more money?
Yeah,
No,
so,
there's a year that you have to stay
okay,
with
yeah,
the
the
city.
waiting period. is a
Last
year,
year, the way I understood it, there was nothing that, no, we don't do that.
I don't.
Have
If
we
it wa-
put something in our rules
It-
now that,
It's been in the personnel manual since I've been here. I think I haven't seen it, and
Well,
that's
la-
like 6 or 7 years. so
last year I
it's-
thought we were told no. That's why I'm just asking now, again, because you happened to mention it.
I don't remember it not being in there. I know it's in there now. So
Okay. So they'd have to stay a year. They couldn't just pick up the next month and go.
they could, but then they would owe us money for the reimbursement.
Alderman Cadella.
Interfund transfers, line item 48045, land acquisition. Is this where we would be placing monies, hopefully in the future? I know I've been bringing it up for a while. It did make it to a finance committee about a month or so ago. And we did talk about, creating a set of rules for land acquisition with regards to flood-prone, damaged, uninhabitable properties, so on and so forth. One of the components that I was looking to add to that program was some kind of an offering financially from the city. Is this where that would go when the time comes and we rediscuss that and hopefully move forward with it? Or would that be somewhere else? I just want to know where I have to be asking for it to be put later.
Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Had we thought about it, I guess conceptually, I'd originally perhaps thought it might just be a reserve line item or something in the capital projects fund. Because the land acquisition fund is quote unquote closed. It's still on the books, obviously. However, it does make a compelling argument, since that would be the purpose that it would be for, to perhaps reopen that fund, which we could certainly do. So, where we want to put the money is kind of secondary to actually finding the money. So yeah, we could certainly entertain the notion of reopening that fund, or could put it as a reserve line item in the capital projects fund if you wanted to. Either one would be fine from my standpoint. Although since it would be for property buyouts and things of that nature, it perhaps would be better lent to a fund actually titled as such. So certainly we could look into opening that back up, sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Another option would be look at tourism fund on that as well. That would qualify as well.
Yes.
If that's where the money came from, though, would it have to go someplace like this before it could be distributed? Would it be a transfer?
If you wanted to use the tourism funds for that purpose, there would be no need to just transfer it in there just to pay it out. You could,
Okay.
Just a couple extra pieces of paper to push around. So yeah, that wouldn't have to
Whatever's
do
the
that.
easiest way. Thank you.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Jeff, I want to get back to tuition reimbursement. I don't have an employee handbook, which I should have one, so I know the rules because I'm an employee too. But is it in the book that they have to get a grade, a decent grade?
Yeah, I believe you have to get above a 2.0, which is a C. The higher you get, I think the more reimbursement percentage you have for the class.
Okay.
Yeah, A and B you get 100% reimbursement, and then it's a sliding scale.
Okay, does the tuition reimbursement pay for the books too?
That I don't know. Do you know that? I think it's just for the class.
Because I think when you have the books, when the city paid for the books, but other employees could use those books. as a training to help them in whatever they're going for. I take it that if they want to take a class, it has to be related to the city in some way of what their job is. I don't think Mr. Kramer here could apply for going for a barber shop or something.
Are you implying that he needs a haircut?
No, I'm not applying that whatsoever, but I don't think that's job related, so I don't think he would be able to take that class.
No, and like we had stated before, I mean, you need a couple people to sign off on it, and it specifically states in the book, it has to be applicable towards something you're doing for the city.
Okay. But my point on this is when we're using the reimbursement here, these employees are getting more education, and I am in favor of education. But we also, I don't know how this stipend works and COLA and everything else. By doing this, aren't we raising our employees to get more money because they've finished their classes or whatever?
That's a good point.
I don't believe that has a bearing on their salary increase.
Okay.
It's-
I don't know how the stipend works in
Yeah.
COLA, so that's,
No.
I just have to bring that out. Okay. Could you explain employee recruitment?
Those are the ads that we put in the Daily Herald if we need to post for a job or we need to post on like an IML website or something like that.
Okay. I wanna talk about the pension fund a little bit here. I wanna congratulate the pension fund on how they're handling their fund is very good. The citizens should be very proud of the pension fund and how they're handling the money that they get. Considering the city of Chicago with their pension, they're asking their taxpayers is probably going to ask for 150%, which is quite a bit. And they should be very happy on where we stand on that. I also want to talk about the sales tax reabatement here. It kind of bothers me that for 4 years I've been sitting at the city council here. I haven't seen the Daily Herald here at all to tell them what the people is going on. But, the tax reabatement here, we did that for Jewel and Target many years ago. Everyone forgets that. And, thank you to Jewel and Target, and I think it was Tandem and Burke. They bring in a lot of tax sales here. And that's what keeps us afloat here. And, Alderman Winger brings up about the $15,000 that we're going to get automatically from the first $15,000. But you also have to remember, if that property was empty, our property tax for that property would only be $2,000. If you had buildings up there like a Subway or beauty shop or whatever, it's still only going to be $15,000 in property tax. Your sales tax would be very, very minimum. So we're adding to the motor fuel tax with the Thornton gas station. We're adding sales tax as they buy food, candy bars, whatever. And, with Tandem and Burke and Jewel, I think it was $1 million back then. I'm not sure. But they've brought a lot of money into this city. And Tandem and Burke's brought a lot of money. And the Thornton gas station is going to bring a lot more. So, and do we have a projection on that?
Let's see. Mr. Wilson, do we have any projections on Thornton? Let's see.
No, that's for this year. Do we have a projection of what they will bring? They got a 40-year lease there.
Yeah, when we were negotiating the terms of the rebate, the first 15,000 we agreed upon for the city to get, as has been stated a couple times. because that was kind of the perceived amount that we would get if just your average run-of-the-mill strip mall went up there. And then the $55,000 that's in the budget there is half of what Thornton's projected to produce above the $15,000. So $110,000 they projected to produce above the 15. So they were looking to produce around $125,000 a year in sales tax revenue to the city, which is about $10,000 a month, give or take. So, and that's just on the city only 1% side. So, assuming that they make $10,000 a month for 40 years, that's some pretty fun math.
It's a good chunk of change.
It's,
As a, bi-
Yeah.
but,
oh, it's over there. It's over there.
Is there any other questions, Ray, or comments? I mean, excellent
I'm sure-
question and point. It's a great
It's-
revenue
It's
source
a
for the
huge
city.
amount of money. That's my point.
Sure.
25 million, does that sound right?
what was that?
25 million? 2 point. I'm going
could-
20 years.
I could get out my calculator and
But-
figure it out
Anyways, the point is,
on 40.
I sit up here and I see the newspapers put things in there that they have no idea what's going on in Wooddale here. And the only ones that know what's going on in Wooddale is if the people watch the TV and come to the council chambers and see what's going on. So all I gotta say is Thornton brings in a lot of money. Target, Jewel, Tannenberg, Super Lowe's too, but we didn't give them a tax incentive. But Thank
Mr.
you.
Wilson, sure.
Because I'm idly curious, the company you keep mentioning, who is that?
Yeah, I'm not clear either.
Tannenberg?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tannenberg is a section between Jewel and Target.
Oh,
Jewel doesn't own, Jewel owns their lot,
okay.
Target owns their, Tannenberg is the company that owns the middle. I don't know how it comes in a tax roll, but that's separate.
Okay. Alderman Lewitton.
Well, everybody's been talking about the tuition. I just want to say that I couldn't, if the budget were there, I couldn't spend enough money on tuition. I'd rather deal with intelligent people, and education is one way to make people intelligent. I'd even ask you, is there a reimbursement program for Robert's Rules of Order for aldermen?
No. Okay, with, just one thing on the tuition reimbursement program, that, can you just explain the scale? Because when we think of tuition reimbursement, the first thing, several think of is that we're like writing checks for the full tuition. And I don't think that can be the case. And I think I heard that it's a scale of percentages, right? That a C is worth 50%, or what's the scale?
Sure. The maximum per fiscal year is $2,000
2,000 per
2,000.
person.
per person, correct.
Okay,
And an A or B gets you reimbursed at 100% of whatever your course cost. C is 75%, a D is 50, and obviously anything less than a D is zero. And just, I'll take a moment and speak personally here. For myself, the $2,000 doesn't even cover one class,
right,
and I've been taking 2 or 3 a year, so.
right.
But that's just me, so. Other places you go, you can get 3 classes out of that, so it really depends on where you go. But yes, there is a graduated scale down based on your degree. And kind of go back to Alderman Wesley's question a few minutes ago about the books. Typically, the books are not on the bill that you pay your tuition with. The books are kind of a one-off deal that you have to buy separately. So typically, the books are not included in that particular number. Now, that's not to say that people don't bring their books in to work with them. I mean, I know I have a couple books, I think even from my undergrad, that I have on my shelf, and I think Anthony does too, for references. But they typically are not included in that, as they're not presented on the the detailed listing for the tuition portion of the schooling.
But my point was to,
Alderman Roy Wesley.
sorry,
That's okay.
my point was to make sure all the employees in your department could benefit just as much as you can by just reading a book, might learn something from that. So that's why it says, are the books available for other employees?
Alderman Cadella.
Well, for paying.
Alderman Cadella.
I've heard other council members talk about this subject, and I wouldn't have thought it was the right place to do it, but since everybody else can, I don't think I'm any less special than anybody else, this gas station. Yeah, it's gonna bring in money, absolutely, without a doubt. We had a small corner parcel and a developer who said he couldn't do anything else. Okay, that's great. That's not entirely untrue. But our memories are real short here, guys. That same developer had that entire section of land assembled where all those townhouses are now, who I've spoken to a number of staff members who will remain nameless, who all insist that those townhouses actually cost the city more money than they're bringing in tax revenue. Same developer also then helped bring in a bank on the other piece of that land. So when we talk about, missed opportunities and, and this was the best you could do with what you had, it was a scenario that was created. I was on the zoning board of appeals at that time. I know we turned down that entire project, but it came back to the city council at the time and it was approved. I also know a previous council member said, he voted for that and that probably was one of the larger mistakes of his career. So as we're sitting here trying to justify this in our minds and to our constituents one way or another, let's remember that there was an option there. There was other possibilities that were left go by the wayside because a developer did what they did, and that's what developers do. And I don't know who was watching the controls at the time, but we got left with a tiny little corner parcel that couldn't do anything else with. And then that same developer brought in what's going to be a business that's going to bring in money without a doubt. But the only offer on the table was to get these taxes back. If Jewel got $1 million tax incentive, it's a much bigger property, brings in larger tax revenue. That was probably fair and equitable. I mean, this is tiny. I will repeat, I cannot argue that it's bringing in money, more money than an empty lot would have, but there were other possibilities that were gone, guys.
And the topic is the rebate program. Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Cadell just reminded me, and when you mentioned the bank, are we receiving the $5,000 yearly payments? Yes. Okay, thank you. As part of the deal, since it was not a sales tax producer, they have to pay us an extra $5,000 per year.
I thought it was indefinite, right? Mr. Wilson?
I don't recall. I don't remember. Could be.
Mr. Wilson, let's hear what Mr. Wilson has on that agreement.
Well, I've never been explicitly told what the time life on that was, but hearing some of the conversation up there, I will certainly look into that and let you know.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
Roy Wesley.
Just keep collecting it.
Okay, I'm going to start down on my right again and come forward. Alderman Coles.
I think I just got nailed about the project on Devon. Mr. Gallo came in here and wanted to put up big box-type warehouses for transferring with the trucks going up and down Devon and up and down Thorndale, and he couldn't get anybody to build them. He couldn't get companies to fill them, so he couldn't build any construction there. And he was wondering what he could do. And I'm the guy that had fault. I'm the guy that said that he should put in condominiums with stores underneath them. But then he said there was no stores, there was plenty of stores across the street that has nothing in them.
and he said that he couldn't fill them, so he went with townhouses. And I guess I'm at fault if you think it's a faulty project. I thought it was a good project, and it built up everything on Devon, so it's a little better over there than what? And it's in Ward 4, which they needed some new houses in to make it look pretty good. And if I did wrong, then I'm sorry that I did it. But I thought it was a good idea. And I thought we are collecting real estate where we wasn't collecting real estate before. And I'm certainly sure them people buying stuff in Wooddale. And as far as the gas station goes, they tried for 2 years to get a restaurant in there, any kind of a restaurant in there. They wanted a restaurant, but everybody said the property was too small for a big restaurant. So, and it was too small for a little shopping center because there wasn't enough of property. So, and that's how the gas station got in there. And I even voted for the gas station, so I'm in wrong again. But that's the way the life goes, and you go with your ups and you go with your downs. Thank you.
Okay, so with that being said, I know that there was discussion on going back and recanting the purpose of why, how we got there. It's a little off the topic of rebate program, and I allowed a response, but let's stick to the topics in this line item, or in these line items on page 148. Alderman Shockey.
I think I had a mind lapse for a moment. Somebody mentioned the newspapers. Would the reporter please raise his hand from the Herald? We haven't seen a reporter for 4 to 6 years. Think about that. Okay, what I really want to say, certification, I think, is good because it does directly benefit the city. Tuition is an additional salary. You're giving that individual more money for a questionable benefit. And I don't know, I wish I had somebody that would have paid part of my tuition when I was going to school, even when I was working. I would have loved that, but, in these questionable times, do we really need to be paying tuition money when we're getting, I think our employees are getting good salaries. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, now, does anyone absolutely need to have any more discussion on this, or can I go ahead and call the roll? Alderman Eugene Wesley.
I'll go back to tuition again. I'd rather move the $10,000 out of tuition than if it's, and put in a land acquisition fund then. There's $10,000 that we can move in that fund to start that project. The problem is, again, am I entitled to low tuition? Sure. Is elected officials entitled to this? Sure. So if I want to go for a grant writing class for a course to educate myself more as a council member, a college course, am I allowed to get tuition? I'm an employee of the city.
Okay, so Mr. Wilson, in the policy, does it state full-time versus part-time?
I'll say it.
I am remiss that I don't have that section of the personnel manual down verbatim. However, Mr. Murmas and I both believe it says full-time employees only.
It should, because I wouldn't really want to spend money on a part-time employee. So if it doesn't, we need to add that in there. Does that answer your question, Alderman Eugene Wesley?
I still will. I say 10,000 should go out. I think it's wrong, and you know what? I don't care if it's part-time, full-time, whatever. Don't tell me if these guys get better education somewhere else, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think if they get say a guy goes to school and we get him a wastewater license, we pay for his tuition, go get his wastewater license, Public Works or a backhoe operation, to go to college and get a degree on that, or a plumbing license, don't tell me he ain't getting an increase in his pay, because there is a stipend raise if he does his license, if he gets additional license, because in the manual and the payroll, it shows a wastewater management 1 and a wastewater management 2. So if a guy goes to college and get a waste management 2 license for any course, he's entitled to get that step raise because he now has a wastewater 2 license that we are not requiring him to do. So we are paying for, don't tell me we are not doing that, because we are. So in Dan's respect, we are giving him stipend raise if he gets a wastewater license and we pay for him to go to school, get that license.
Or
That
she.
is a policy.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I can't argue with what you said there. However, the other side of the argument is you now have a better employee. You have a more educated employee, a more versatile employee, an employee that can perform more job tasks. They can step in should people be off. So, not that I'm not disagreeing with that sentiment, but you're also kind of
Yes.
discounting having better educated employees.
But I'm also giving him a
Okay.
raise.
I want to hear
Don't
final
tell me I'm
comments
not
here.
giving him a raise, because I am. If he got that license, going to tuition, a wastewater management 1, and he wants to become a waste management 2 and go to college for it, and he gets that license, or regardless where he gets it from, we pay for his tuition and we pay for his step raise. And don't sit here and tell me then we shouldn't have those step raises in place and if they improve their education. Bottom line.
Okay, now I want a final response, and then there might be a motion made. Mr. Kramer?
I'm not throwing a gas can onto a bonfire with this statement, but right
That's
now,
okay, I'm not going to recognize him if,
but right now, any of the water and wastewater licenses, which you're using examples for, currently do not get paid for on a tuition reimbursement. I have 2 employees currently going right now to Joliet Junior College to take their water license for a Class C water license. I approve that on the basis of I have 2 employees probably retiring in the next 5 years who have water licenses. I need to replace those employees down the line. So right now, Public Works, continuing education, not central services, tuition reimbursement is paying for them to go to COD to take their training class and to take the certification exam.
Let's look at 4.
no, Alderman Shockey. Alderman Shockey.
I make a motion to pass the central services proposed budget excluding tuition reimbursement.
Second.
Okay, then, on the question, only a few brief ones here. Alderman Cadella.
Would anybody else up here entertain the same idea that Alderman Eugene Wesley just did about moving that 10,000 to property buyouts or land acquisition? Because that's part of the same fund here, so we could do that all at one time, and I would agree to that.
I think that's a whole separate project in itself. We got to work with the county, see what they're going to dip in and all that. I think it's a whole different animal, and I don't think 10,000 is going to make a difference in that area,
It's a start.
unfortunately.
It's a start, and it shows
Okay.
people that we're committed.
Okay.
I'll amend my
and-
motion.
And then, one other person did wish to be recognized, Alderman Police. Did you have anything before I call the roll?
Since we took the tuition out, I'm not going to ask about, we're training these 2 guys, and the other 2 guys are going to retire in 5 years, so what if these 2 guys, they only have to stay 1 year and they're gone? We're going to,
That's education.
We're talking about 2 separate things here. They can leave whenever they want for certifications. Comparing apples and oranges.
All in favor?
Hang on.
Wait.
No, I want to get through this. Vote it down if you don't want it, and we'll keep talking about it, but let's get through it. All in favor?
Wait,
No.
I want to, before you vote on this,
I-
look at your staff.
I'm calling the question. Nope, I'm calling the question, and then vote no if you don't want it. It takes out the tuition. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
I have 4 opposed that I heard. Will the minute taker call the roll?
Alderman Lewitton,
Opposed.
Alderman Roy Wesley,
Opposed.
Alderman Coles,
Pass. I'll vote for it.
Alderman Police,
No.
Alderman Cadella,
No.
Alderman Eugene Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman Winger,
No.
Alderman Shockey.
Yes.
Okay, that motion fails. Now, Alderman Roy Wesley.
All I wanted to say